Okay, I'm feeling good with my administrative part of it. Andres, do you want to start soon or you want to give it a minute?
I think we can wait to 6 of, okay, just switch to 6 of.
We can wait. You tell me.
So we can start to make sure that we get through everything on time. So welcome everyone for Communities Without Boundaries, a workshop that will talk about a very ambitious project at El Punto. So let me share my screen with you really quickly.
Looks good.
Looks good. So today we're going to be talking about El Punto, which is a new project that is being built at Ciudad Juárez. And we're going to hear about El Punto, the project itself, and why it's being built. We're going to hear about the architecture that El Punto has and all of the goals that the construction has. Architectural projects for communities as well, new construction materials and technology, and engaging students and academia with El Punto. Then we'll hear some closing remarks from professors from Tec de Monterrey. So we have a large amount of speakers today, so we're gonna have a fast-paced meeting, and we're gonna start off with Sandro Landucci, president of Lichen, then Augustin Solorzano, which is the lead architect for El Punto, Griselda Curi, who is the executive director of the US, Mexico, and Canada Strategic Alliances, Mauricio Flores, architecture professor at Tecnológico de Monterrey, Campus Chihuahua, Brandon Clifford, associate professor of the School of Architecture at MIT, Emanuele Giorgi, who is an architecture professor at Tecnológico de Monterrey, also Campus Chihuahua, and Diego Grañena, who is the Dean of School of Humanities, Social Sciences, and Architecture at Tecnológico de Monterrey, Campus Chihuahua. It's worth mentioning that this is all possible because Cecilia Levine put us all together, and she is the brains behind the whole holistic approach to El Punto. So thank you so much, Cecilia, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all of our speakers today. Just a logistics issue, we're gonna have a Slido link, so you guys can post your questions over there. Remember that we're gonna have presentations first and then go into a Q&A session. So if you guys can start posting questions as you come up with them during the presentation, that should make things easier for us at the Q&A session. So with this, I pass the mic to you, Sandro.
Well, thank you. Let me share a screen also. Okay. So, well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for the invitation. So here we're going to talk about a project that is developing and that it's, as we speak, it's not a finished project. And it's not a project that is already being or built or even in the phase of producing an executive project. It has been a project that has been developing for many years now, in which we first thought of how to address a problem that was happening in the north frontier of Mexico, in Juárez, which for many years has been a place where the violence of Mexico has been flourishing, unfortunately, and it's being a communication point. No? So this project was first thought as how to address a problem in a city where for many, many years, people from all over Mexico have been transferring for two reasons.
Sandra,
first,
we just see black now. We don't see a slide yet. Is that correct?
Oh, no. So
yeah, let's check your screen share.
Let me check, resume share. Starting is supposed to be.
You might want to do a stop share and then share.
Okay, yeah. Let me redo this again. Sorry.
No worries. Great. We see El Punto Y.
Now you have El Punto. Perfect. So, as I was saying, there are many years, but now I cannot change the. Okay. So for many years, Juárez has been in the north part of Mexico, a place where many people from Mexico move to find different opportunities. One of them is because there is in El Juarez a very big manufacturing industry which creates jobs. That these jobs have people are having better opportunities to find jobs in El Juarez. So it's a place that is being built by people moving to the frontier. The second thing, because they're moving there, is because in Juarez it's a crossing point to the States. So illegal workers that are trying to get a place in the States and are trying to move. So Juarez has been being built for many years as a migrant city inside Mexico. So we have a whole situation in the frontier of Mexico, and every time as Mexicans, and when we think about the identity in the frontier, we're always thinking about the region of Tijuana and its relation with California. But during recent years, the development of the frontier between El Paso and Juarez has been much more developed because of the industry and because of the numerous factories that have been opening there. So we have a community that has been growing and growing and growing, in which people do not find an identity. They're not locals. They're never locals. They're always coming from different places. So during these years, a socio-demographic community has been growing, and with these many problems, I'm sure you've all heard about El Juarez and the Mexican cities in the borders, and how all these people are always or finding a job there or trying to move to the States. Ciudad Juárez, it's an historic place for Mexico. It's an historic place. It was even the capital of Mexico during immediately after the Revolution of Mexico. But then it was a little forgotten, and it wasn't really a place where, as different parts of Mexico are always very rich in culture, are always very rich in even in gastronomy or whatever. Juarez has been always a city where this has not flourished. Other parts of the state of Chihuahua, where Juarez is located, have a very rich identity of the people, but Juarez as a city has lost this part. So when we look at Juarez, we always think about the cartel de Juarez, no? The cartel that has been communicating in Mexico in every part of the world, and it's a place where all the narcos were like born, and this narco community and these big capos of the drug lords in Juarez, no? After this immediately happened, and they began to flourish all over the country, no? Sinaloa, El Cartel de Sinaloa, or different places. But then we had this very big problem in Juarez during many years, that lasted many years, which was this social problem where thousands of women were being killed every year. And this was a problem that was addressed but never solved. It never found a solution, and it never found even an origin. Nobody never really understood why this happened and what was the reason for this. But in terms of communication, during these years, it started growing and growing, and everything that Mexico was communicating to the world was through Juarez and what was happening in Juarez. So all the art manifestations in Mexico, every social literature, poetics, everything, cinema, TV series, everything was talking about this problem in Juarez. And all the world was learning of Mexico because of this problem, because of Juarez. So at that time, the notoriety around the world grew for Juarez, and everybody was looking for it. So everybody was looking for what was happening, and mostly the Mexican government started looking finally at Juarez and trying to understand what was going on. During this year, a lot of political movements came in, and the government of Mexico even wanted to change the federal government for some months to Juárez, so that the president would be living in Juárez to try to totally change what was going on. At the end, the government came up with a solution that was called 100 acciones en 100 días, 100 actions in 100 days. And this was mostly a communicational thing that really the government didn't found a solution to the problem, but just tried to communicate it differently and to try to say that they were addressing the problem. At the time, our company was invited by the government to go to Juárez to try to understand what could be done in Juárez to change the situation. And we looked at it that it was not going to be a solution that could be done in 100 days, as we were requested by the government to do. But it was something that needed to really get into study and then finding many different solutions. And one of them, we thought, is to give Juárez a public space where community could gather, community could look back to each other, community could communicate and find a place where they could gather in different social programs. After that, we stopped working with the government and we started speaking and talking to the Juárez leaders, industry leaders, society leaders, to try to understand this behind the government communication program. At the time, we found one of the most important persons that has been developing Juárez for many, many years, which is Cecilia Levine. She's a person where has been opening and changing the way the industria de la maquila, the industry of transformation was being built in Juárez, to try to take that industry to make it a specialized industry, to try to make it this, that Mexico could offer not just the transformation of products, but the innovation in products and how to have a better working, better paid working specialized jobs instead of just doing maquila, instead of just doing transformation. So we found Cecilia, we spoke to her about this program, how we wanted to change Juárez through the identity of Juárez, through a new landmark in Juárez, and how could we work this together. So at the time, she jumped immediately into the project. Since then, we've been talking, and that's why this is not a new project, but nevertheless, it's not an end project yet. It's a project that has been developing through the years to find a very strong solution to Juárez. So we first spoke to Cecilia, then we spoke to the government to say we want to do something here, and then we spoke to Herzog de Mouron to invite them to join us efforts to have a very strong project in Juárez that could gather community back and that could develop a multi-program in Juárez. So we found a place in Juárez, which is, and we call it El Punto, and I'm gonna explain this very fast. El Punto, which means like the place where everything happened. No? El Punto is a place where many things can happen and that can be a landmark. This has now been established, even though it's not yet built. El Punto, everybody now knows now in Juárez. When you say El Punto, everybody understands that there is something that is going to happen there that is going to be very important, that is going to change the way Juárez is communicating. So we call it El Punto. As I was telling you, this happens just in El Paso del Norte, El Cruzo El Paso del Norte, which historically is a very important location. So what happened in this location is the river used to cross, and the river was usually what defined the border through Juárez and through El Paso. When the river changed course in the 60s, this land came up, and there was a big discussion between the states and Mexico who was the owner of this new place, because the river moved north of the border. So Mexico was saying it's ours, the states was saying it's ours. So after many discussions and even little social riots, the states finally decided that they will annex this piece of land back to Mexico, that it will be in Mexico. This historically is important because it's the first time in the history of the United States that it is not annexing a piece of land, but leaving it to a different country. And this is not a very big piece of country, but it's historically, there's even songs in Mexico that talk about El Chamizal. And so what happens in this place is that El Paso and Juarez now share this piece, this park that has been abandoned for many, many years after these riots came in and everything, and Mexico annexed the piece of land, then it just stayed there. We took exactly the little point, the little left point of El Punto, which is right on the frontier between Mexico and the States. So that's the place we were fighting to get back from the government and have it given to our to the non-for-profit that we created to build up this place. Finally, after many years of negotiations with the government, and after having a strong project to put in, we now have this piece of land that it will get developed. This piece of land shows itself, as I was telling you, just in the middle of the center of Juarez and in the center of El Paso. And what happens in this situation, contrary to other places in the border, is that both of the centers look at each other. They're always looking at each other. They're always, so we want this place to be the first thing that you see when you're in the States to Mexico. The view they have right now is the view you see to the right, and the view that Mexicans have to El Paso is the view that you see in the left. This is the center of Juarez. This is the center of the El Paso. As you can see, it's a very contrasting reality, and they look at each other every day. So the differences are always, they're always patent, are always very hard to live into this reality and into this situation. So we need to change this, and we need to change this by putting in this strategic location where in one side of the border, there's one of the most secure cities as El Paso is in the States. And on the other side, just a few meters after, it's one of the most highest criminal densities in the whole world. No? So El Punto will be the house of many different social programs that other of my friends that I will be talking will address each of the points, or each of the programs that we want to have there. And so this is the whole park of El Chamizal. This is where El Punto will be done, because now the government is looking at the area, and now the government is saying they will do a whole project around El Punto that will get the whole area back, densifying, having so this is the park that is done, has nothing to do with our project, but it is together surrounding our project. For our project now, Augustin Solorzano will explain about it. And then we have this very prestigious project that it will be done by Herzog de Mouron. And the important thing is that it's a project that will be built step by step. It's not a project that will build now to happen in the whole program, but it will start developing by little infrastructures that will be putting on top of each other until we get to have the whole program done. As I told you, I'm not going to get into the architecture. I will now leave the speech to Augustin Solorzano, and I will talk a little bit about Augustin. Augustin was a Mexican working in Herzog de Mouron at the time that we came to Jacques St. Pierre to talk about this project. And of course, he being Mexican, he was following this project for them. He now has, luckily for us Mexicans, come back to our country and working here. And he will be following this project with us. Not anymore as Herzog de Mouron. We were continuing working with Herzog de Mouron. But now Augustin, with all the experience he gained during many years living in Switzerland with Herzog de Mouron, he will be forming part of our team to get this project follow up through. And so I don't have a watch here, but Maggie, I think it's time I pass the word to because I saw you were making some signs.
Thank you, Sandro. Great presentation.
So I will stop share and give the word to Augustin, right?
Okay, thank you, Sandro. So I just continue where Sandro finished the explanation. I will just talk about the architecture, basically the design or all the conceptualization of the project is been talking about several ambitions. So, of course, the location is a very interesting location. Is for a project like El Punto, I think there is no better location in all the border. We believe that this is a great opportunity, this place. And what we really start working with it is just looking at the directionality of this project. El Punto is in the border that normally go east to west in Mexico, and all the ambitions and the migration and all the commercial goods and so normally flows from south to north. So these two cardinal points, or these cardinal points, give us a very strong directionality to start working in a site like this. It's a huge site, so we needed something to hold and to start working that give us some hints and some directionality and some I don't know, grid to start deciding where to place the program and the different kind of programs. So starting with these directions, the programs that were given by the client requirements, it was like this music school. They want to explain what is about this music school in El Paso. And this is a working and producing shop. With this place is meant to be kind of a research of technology and new materials. And the idea is like the building is somehow built through this part of the program. So the production of the materials for the construction will be worked in that part. There is another area that is more like church and related activities. We put a church because we believe that this is a point for different religions or different beliefs where we can concentrate all these wishes and beliefs in order to make the project stronger and more open to many type of public. And leaving this idea is like a temporary housing for migrants or for people that is on the way, or people that are working on the project and also have a temporary place to stay. So working on that direction, we define a center. This center is the point where everything starts to grow from this point. And this point is very important because it's where all these programs or all these activities are concentrated in one specific point. No? And as Sandro mentioned, the idea of the project is to work in modules that can be grow in a very natural way. Of course, we have a plan and we have a directionality to follow, and we have a dimensions to follow, that this works all kind of a system that is growing in a very natural way, but at the same time is controlled. So the growth is depending on the budget and the money and the missions and everything, it will grow slowly. And with this kind of system of pixels, let's say, or these small units, can be stacked and shifted. So they will be creating an interior space under each of these elements. So slowly, with a slow grow, we start building this system of several pieces that became El Punto. It's kind of a very porous, with a lot of porosity, the building, so have many entries and many light entrances and ventilation. So the idea is to work in different types of materials. Now, in that time, we were exploring the idea of working with the ground, with the adobe or with rammed earth or some other system. But we know that the technology in Ciudad Juárez, because of all this manufacturing industry, is very interesting. So they have a lot of new technology that can be also applied in the project, not only these kind of materials. So this is just a diagrams that show how they grow in section, and is generating this inner space. And these units can be pixelated in very small units to generate more curvature in the interior if needed. So this is in the floor plan, how the grow will flow naturally. And this is some of the interior images of the central space. The result of these big pixels with medium, small dimensions generate this central space. No, this is kind of the big project. Still, this is a big project also going on for the permaculture and all the exterior spaces, which is another big opportunity to do another project that is also social engagement and connected with the community. So these some images of a model. This, you can see the site there and some model shots. So you can see the scale of the building there. It has a different multiple levels and opportunities to see to the interior and to the exterior from different parts of the building and different heights. So the project is now in a schematic design phase. In order to continue with this project and developing the project, is necessary to have a more clear idea on the materiality and the structural systems and so. So we're working in collaboration with different institutions like Tec de Monterrey to research all these materials that we will not talk later about that. But this is generally the presentation. These are some references of this kind of stacked in New Mexico that are made with Adobes and Ramed Earth. And these are more or less a process of exploration, following the idea of this system of two directions with the cardinal points. And the result at the end is what you saw before. So thanks.
Beautiful work.
Thank you, Augustin. Now we move on to Mauricio from Tech.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi. As Tec de Monterrey Architectural Academy, we are starting to participate in this project. As we just saw, it's a very large project with some small projects in. So what I want to talk about is how we could participate in all these projects. The variety and mix of problems and needs in the communities made difficult to have a single replicable methodology to develop projects with social impact, especially here in Mexico. When we develop social projects, I think there is the risk that they don't come true or maybe become useless facilities. And in some cases, they have been built, they are useful, but they depend on external support to continue existing. As a school of architecture, we have developed projects such as pocket parks and Centro de Desarrollo Familiar here in Chihuahua, both, which were built by students or by the municipal government of Chihuahua. But most of the projects remain storage on the computer. As a teacher, I have been involved in many projects with my students in the Sierra Tarahumara especially. But unfortunately, I had to experience what I just mentioned. Anyone might think that the lack of interest in these projects by government and people are the main cause of the failure. for not being interested, for apathy, for not representing maybe personal benefit, etc. But I think that the solution is how we work the project with the community. As architects, we consider that knowing the needs of the user plus our knowledge is enough to develop a project. It may be in the most of the cases, but I think that social projects require other ingredients. And this is how community-led projects propose it. And I believe that this is how it has to be worked in El Punto. A few months ago, I was collaborating in research that is in process to be published. And I met an organization that changed my mind about social projects. The movement for community-led development is an organization that seeks to empower communities, returning basics, and finding the solution of the problems in the community to be more effective and to avoid historical dependence on the governments. Also, they generate social development based on the fulfillment of human rights, collective responsibility, and social justice. In this presentation, I have taken some of these points to relate them with the architectural project with social impact, but feel free to find the correct application for these points. The first thing to consider is that the community is the center of the project. Our greatest interest should be the benefit of it. The project must help the community to learn how to guide its own development, from which everything must arise. As I mentioned, return to the basis where the community solves its problems because maybe there are no options, as just heard. In project visits that we have made to Sierra Tarahumara, we have seen that there are activities that people have learned to develop for necessity. For example, each family makes their own adobes to store them because at some point that family will need them, or maybe another member of the community will need adobes. So that's something that they learn and they do by themselves, and they carry out the construction. So this is a sample of the things that the community can do by themselves. Another point is that we have to set local objectives be achieved. Changing systems. Maybe not. Maybe don't. We don't have to look for short-term projects. We have to look for change, a real change of the system. This point seems complicated because it implies changing paradigms, and the human being is reluctant to change. So we decided to consider taking small steps with simple and easy projects to carry out, to generate this change and gain confidence. We have to focus on things that people have in common, needs, problems, ideas, because that will strengthen the project. And we have to develop a shared sense of optimism and a collective ownership of the project. Also, I think we have to consider, and this movement thinks that we have to consider people as experts of their own place, of their own town. Let them be the ones, sometimes, let them be the one who design. In some cases, we will become the helpers. We have to appreciate the diversity. Everyone in the community should express themselves in the decisions that may affect them. I think everyone has something to say. to say. We have to seek the participation of everyone. It should be a collaborative local leadership. Everyone is a potential leader. In this kind of projects, I think we will learn by doing. So the activity planning must be flexible to allow change, the project change and become something else, something different from what it was initially proposed. So I think we must allow it as long as it's a decision of the community and if it's for their own good. And for this, we have to have time for reflection and communication to inform everyone what is happening. Also, we have to document the process and create measurement instruments that help us to validate the community participation. And the result is what we have desired. Mainly, change the mentality of people. We have to, they are not beneficiaries, but agents of change that have to be aware that if the things are working, is for them and by them. As a conclusion, I think that design process in social projects must be structured in a way that includes an active participation of the people, of the community. I believe in projects like El Punto, all possible support is needed. For construction, for implementation, such as local and federal governments, companies, associations, society, schools. But I think the community must be allowed to lead the project. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio. And Brandon is next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brandon. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. This is a great opportunity to challenge some of the approaches that we take in our research lab called Matter Design. I just wanted to start by sharing a bit of our methodology and the way we think. For the past 5 years, I've been working on a very fundamentally ancient problem of just trying to figure out how to embed behavior into massive objects so that they can move, transport, and stand with ease. Fundamentally, there are two tasks or motivations behind this work. The first has to do with energy, and the second has to do with community. So as you see this, we've been experimenting with some really ancient methods of embedding intelligence into objects, but really decoupling the association that we have with fossil fuel burning equipment. How is it that ancient civilizations were so adept at moving these massive megalithic stones? And yet today we struggle with the conception of how these ancient architectures could have ever happened. So we find that as a potential to think about how to shift the contemporary direction of how we're thinking of construction. These experiments have been asking the question of how to put on public performances of the act of construction as performance art as they may appear. Fundamentally, they're really looking at construction and just moving heavy things. The second half has to do with community. Because so many of these ancient civilization monuments, megaliths, or prehistoric sites were not just construction sites, but they were themselves memorials or markers of events or trackers of celestial bodies. And for that reason, embedding so much energy into these objects requires a more delicate and punctual attention to working with community. So here you can see we've been casting these massive heavy objects that can be transported and assembled just with carbohydrates. So only manpower is necessary to move these things. If a brick is designed for a human hand to pick and place all day long, the construction industry assumes that anything larger than a brick should really be picked up by fossil fuel burning equipment. So here, by embedding behavior of density and geometry into these objects, we're able to manipulate massive objects with ease. The question of community emerges in thinking about how could this like lab-based research have an impact on community? And at this point, I would say this project that we call Walking Assembly is quite inert. It's just asking questions of how these objects can move and how they can assemble with each other. And herein lies why I'm here today, is because I was fortunate enough to meet Cecilia. And we've been asking the question of how could that lab work? I'll skip this. How could that lab work start to build some friction with some of the issues that surround exactly what we're talking about today, which is community engagement? And what kind of architecture could help contribute to that as small or as large as possible? So here, one of the things that we understood with Cecilia is that El Punto puts on public events for the community that range in scale. They range in scale from a small gathering of people to a massive grouping of thousands and thousands of people for performances. Lately, we've also been asking the question about what would it mean to produce a community center in a pandemic? What does it mean to gather people in an age of physical distancing? So we tried to create a few minimal elements that could transform with ease to provide as many possible different programs. And here you're seeing a few plans of the exact same elements, just transforming, rotating to accommodate these different programs that El Punto could put on, or also starting to think about what kinds of programs this could generate, or new kinds of spaces that radiate out from these massive objects. One of the things about this site is it receives so little rainfall a year that cover was not the main concern, but dealing with thermal conditions and a lag between the day and night was something that we were hoping to take advantage of with the density and the thermal mass of the concrete. You'll also see one of the vertical elements has a hearth embedded inside of it. So here you can see smoke coming out of the top of that hearth. Cuisine and food is obviously important to gather people together. And we wanted to make sure that there was some type of intelligence in these objects so that we could have chefs come and cook food, or even just families getting together to have a family gathering or a dinner. And one of the questions we were asking ourselves is, how could we design a space that would serve as a blank canvas to invite artists, social programmers, or other community engagements to think about how would you use this space? And that's why we're calling this prototype Aki Aki. And I'm really hoping we get the opportunity to see what kind of impact this could have, because it will challenge our own approach to architecture. And thank you again for having me today.
Great, thank you, Brandon. Beautiful work. Emanuele, right? We have one more presentation, and then we'll move into a question and answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation to this meeting. But even more, thank you very much for the invitation to be part in this project. That is a fantastic project. That is El Punto, a project that I think is a very extremely contemporary project, because it represents how our territories and our cities can really solve the challenges for the society of today and the society of tomorrow. I would like to point out some aspects, some issues that I would like to discuss with you about the importance of engaging students and academia within this project of El Punto. The first one is why it is important to engage students within community building projects. We already saw with Mauricio and with Brandon how the topic of the community building and the community building projects and the topic of empowering local communities is an extremely important topic today. We saw, for example, here with COVID-19 breakout, how the situation in which we have a good community, a strong community, we have good social relation, we have maybe we can mitigate the economical impact or the environmental impact. On the other side, where we don't have community, strong community, we have problems such domestic violence and so on. So community is extremely important. It's one example is that is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals for 2013 of the United Nations. Another example is the topic of community building is at least one decade that is within the debate in architectural research, in urban design research, in urban design, in architectural practice, and also because it's the topic is not just within our field, but is also in the mind of several thinkers. For example, Stephen Hawking that say that without community and strong community, humanity could not reach the level of civilization as we are. And in the same way, for example, Pope Francis with the book and the encyclica Laudato Si, he said, without a strong community within the city, we cannot reach sustainable society and sustainable territory. So this is a very important topic, and I'm sure that everybody wants to improve a little bit the world. And as we are almost everybody engaged with teaching, I'm sure that everybody wants to improve or know how to improve the world, also empowering students. So focus the attention of the students on this extremely important topic as a community building. Then there is another aspect that I would like to point out, that is the academia as a urban power. When we involve academia within urban projects like El Punto, of course, we are bringing one of the most important aspects of academia, that is the innovation within the city. So we bring innovation from the academia outside. But there is another aspect that I think extremely important, that academia is a fantastic word. At least, and maybe not every university or institution are fantastic word, but at least MIT, Tecnológico de Monterrey, University of Guadalajara are fantastic university. And these fantastic university are made, yes, by students, by researchers, by teachers, but they are made and by a strong aspect that is the networking. So there are a lot of organizations, associations that represent society and citizens, institutions, private and public institutions that are involved within the project of academia. So when you involve academia within a urban project, you are involving a big urban power. So for this, for this aspect, I think is very important of the project that we are doing together. Then, if I can speak a little bit about the small grain of sand that we are making within this project, is a report on materials and plans to implement one of the aspects of El Punto project. And this aspect is related with the materials and plant to use in the permacultural garden to be implemented in the project. So there is one very nice concept that I think very nice, that is this concept of material culture. That basically is try to understand the cultural aspect within the materials or within the object. And in the same way is the physical aspect of the culture. And I'm a little bit worried about the fact that architecture, we are, as architects, we are losing little by little this capacity to understand the cultural aspect within the material. We are losing a little bit the capacity to know and to manage the properties, the behavior, and the characteristic of the materials within the project. And this is visible in the bad quality of urban spaces, of several buildings, and so on. So on one side, I'm really happy to work within this project with this topic of studying the materials. And we saw with the previous presentation of Brandon the importance to think about materials and the impact that materials can have on the community. And also on the other side, I'm really happy to work with this topic because one goal of of El Punto is to create something like a platform within Ciudad Juárez where the community can be empowered, knowing better the materials for the construction. And if we have this problem of ignorance for the material, maybe we have a bigger problem related with ignorance to botany, to trees, to plants, because our environment is a living environment, but often as architects, we forgot the importance and the properties, the qualities, and the characteristic of trees, plants, and garden. So there is this very interesting aspect within the project of El Punto, that is the permacultural garden. That is a good opportunity for us as teachers, students, to study about this topic, but also the empowering of the community thanks to this garden of permaculture. Actually, permaculture is very nice concept, but also very nice name, because within the permaculture we have the idea of culture. Actually, in Italian, when they translated permaculture, they used not in permacultura. Cultura means culture and is not related with agriculture. They are two different words. So it's very strong, this topic of culture. And basically, permaculture is a conscious design to reproduce natural schemes. So if we want to reproduce natural scheme, and we have to understand nature. And if we want to understand nature, I think is the most important challenge that we have as society nowadays, to understand where we have to go. And if with all these four aspects, let's say, I'm sure that El Punto is a very strong opportunity for Ciudad Juárez, but also for Mexico, to be able, as a society, to rewrite an environmental alliance in this time of changes. I took the freedom to point out just four aspects, and four aspects I related with 4 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. But if we check all the 17 goals of the United Nations, I'm sure that it's like that. We can find that all the 17 goals are related with El Punto, and on the contrary, El Punto is related with the 17 sustainable goals. So I think if we can transmit this message to our students, we can make a fantastic job, as El Punto will make a fantastic job in the city of Ciudad Juárez. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, to our audience, we've heard a lot of information. Some of you might have known about the project before. Some of you are just hearing about it. You might have a question about the project as a whole. We can throw it to all of our speakers, or maybe you have a question for just one person in particular. So again, we are collecting questions in Slido. When you look at the chat in Zoom, you'll see a link there. When you go to that link, you have a platform where you can ask your questions. You can also read the questions that your colleagues here are asking. So it's kind of a lot of information. We did fast talks for this today because there's a lot to tell you about the project, but we hope that spending some time in conversation can help address some of the things you're thinking about.
So we do have some questions coming in.
Great.
And the first one is directed to Augustin. And it's, which kind of structure are you considering to combine with Adobe to reach the necessary heights? She's curious because since she noticed that the scale of the building is quite high. This question is from Melissa Lamas from ITES.
Now, at the moment, we are thinking in several potential materials. Adobe or raw material was one of the ideas. But let me just give me a moment. I will show you. One moment. So some quick observations on the structure. The idea is to just show. Well, the idea is to have a structure that works independently of the wall construction. That's why maybe it's not ideal, in this case, the Adobe for several stacked floors. And And we are exploring, we had explored which kind of a structure is ideal to work with this. And there is an example, just to not be so long, I will not show you this reference. This is a project design from Herzog de Mouron, that they can reach really high space with Adobe, but this is a kind of an Adobe raw material production that is prefabricated in a workshop. So, and then it's transported to the site. So as you can see, the structure is a reinforced concrete frames, beams and columns, and the raw material blocks that are very big and very large are stacked together as a only as a partition wall. They are not structurally working, only supporting their own heights, their own weight. Sorry. So you can see, this is a very incredible exploration of materiality, and they made a really interesting building, working in a workshop and transporting all these huge elements that are numbered and located and positioned in the right place, which is a quite of a simple module, unless this part where they have a circular window, but the rest is really simple construction. As you can see, the result is amazing. The interior space for this specific project was used to store herbs to produce these Ricola candies. So this place, there was no need to artificial climate, air conditioned systems and so, because the construction gives all the thermal qualities that they require for this kind of storage. So that's the principal idea for the structure, in case they want to use Rammed Earth or Adobe walls construction.
And maybe talking about the structure and construction, and trying to connect Brandon's work with yours, Augustin. It seems very reasonable to me that you can imagine, as El Punto grows and as this project is, as Sandro said, a very modular project and a step-by-step process. Yeah. It seems very natural to see those concrete monoliths rolling into El Punto. Yeah, I don't know if you two could talk about what needs to happen for us to see a project like that grow, like this pixel monoliths being rolled into place instead of craned into the building.
So I can just give a comment. Maybe this kind of a combination of two systems, or the different systems, with these rolling and moving elements that are incredibly interesting, and they have a lot of potential. They can work in different parts of the project. I don't know, like defining the main entries or the entrance for the public or for the people to the building. Also defining direction, and also defining certain spaces in the exterior to gather people for small meetings or for I don't know, social gathering, etc. I think it's really interesting how these modules can work very well in terms of construction, because the idea is like a hands of people building this El Punto.
Andres,
I don't know what Brandon consider on this.
I think Cecilia was about to say something.
This is Cecilia. When I met Brandon, I imagined how we could together work with his exploration of materials, because then the space could become more flexible as far as how the spaces were going to be used for, and as also the direction of the building and how we could utilize also the material for the different seasons of the year, and how we can open it and close the building to be able to make it more sustainable and not use so much energy at certain times, and allow, especially now with COVID, how we can ventilate certain spaces.
Yes.
So it gives a lot of flexibility and makes it very, very interesting to explore.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm eager to try and explore, is what other potentials. I mean, the walking assembly project is just thinking about how do you assemble things together. I should say that we collaborate with the building industry. So this is work done in partnership with Cemex, a Mexican-based cement company, but the group we work with is in Switzerland. They're working on the material science behind getting the density correct. And all we care about is getting the center of mass where we need it to be. But then what you use that for, I think Augustin is raising questions about, like, you could use that to aid in assembly, but you could also use it to retain heat. You can use it to ventilate. You can use it for all the various contingencies that we need in architecture, which is not static. And I think that's the way that we've been thinking of concrete for years, or really many materials, is that they're static. They shouldn't change.
Totally.
The reality is they decay, they change, and we need them to change.
It also seems that it adds into the community aspect of the building, sort of having people shift around these structures and collaborate on it, which ties into this question that we have for Mauricio, which is, what do you see as the largest challenges to ensure success with El Punto? I reckon it's in a context of community building. So could you give us your thoughts, Mauricio?
Okay, I think that the largest challenge is make community. As I think Sandro said, Ciudad Juárez is a mix of people and cultures. I think like any other border of the planet. So all these people crossing. Some of them staying in Juárez make a large mix of people. So I think the problem will be how we can make a community so the people to find similar topics of the people, similar issues, benefits, problems, I don't know, to find something that relates them, all of them. And I think if El Punto can make that, I think that would be great for Ciudad Juárez. But I think the answer will be make community.
Awesome. So, Sandro, if you could add to that, when you were presenting, you were talking about the step-by-step process, and this is a long-term project. So how do you how do you expect the community will be kept engaged with the project as generations flow through this space and come in and come out of it, to tie into the community building that Mauricio is talking about?
Well, first, there is no program in this building that it won't be committed to a social program, no? All programs that are going to be built in El Punto are social programs that are depending on programs that are already being done in Juárez and that are running in Juárez. So what we've been expecting for these years is that we first start with the Music Academy. The Music Academy, it's a program that it's something that is already going on in Juárez, and it's also something that it's hundreds of kids are now studying music because of a government program that started, that then was taken by society. Cecilia is one part of that society herself that is now handling these kids to learn music. So the first program that we want to build up in El Punto, it's a program where these kids will have a professional space to continue learning music. So when you have like a music academy being part of this project, everything that evolves around these kids, their families, everything will be a gathering point. Something that already happened in El Punto. Society has already taken this place as a zone owned by them, because when the Pope came to Mexico and he chose to come to the border of Mexico, and he then chose not only to come to the border, but to come, as you know, it's 1,000 miles border that we share with the States. He chose Juárez because he perfectly understands that Juárez is the border that is communicating Mexico now, and where everything is, that happens in Juárez, it's just a replica that will happen in other places in the border. So when this mass was done in El Punto, we received thousands of people to go see the Pope there. And now the place where the Pope made his mass is still there. So people, I know you were talking about a different thing, but what I'm saying is this is already a place that is taken by the Juárez Society. This is already a place that is where Juárez Society has been and that continues to visit. And there's great expectancy to everything that will be built. So it will be easier after all these years of work, of hard work in El Punto, just to accomplish society still being there. The other major thing is when you talk about building a church or that it's of course one of the biggest programs in El Punto. Mexico is gathered by the church still. No, when you're thinking about a country or about a program in Europe where a city wants a new program being built, they're thinking about museums, they're thinking about cultural centers, theaters, orchestras, whatever. In Mexico, in a place like Juárez, people will gather because of a church, around the church and around the church-related programs. So this is a place where, as I was telling before, every one of the programs is to have the Juárez Society come to a public space where they will come back to look to each other. This has been lost because of the violence. This has been lost because of people do not look anymore to each other because they're close in their houses. And with this pandemic, it's even worse. No, people lost this interaction in a place where there's no public space, where there's no parks, and now there's not even places to go to school or to work. So how to have a society living together if they don't even look to each other, if they don't even find themselves walking in the streets. Nobody walks in the streets in Juárez. This is something that just does not happen. So the soul of this project is to have the community together and is to be a place where you gather community. Then, of course, we will involve them in how the programs are developed, and every one of the programs is just a response of what people are looking for.
Thanks, Sandro. Yeah, I think that's what makes El Punto so special. You're thinking it through all these social programs around the structure and not the other way around. So we have a question for Emanuele. And it's, how do the students respond to this project? Which part is most exciting to your students? And do they remain involved? Which also ties into the long-term collaboration and engagement with this community. So Emanuele.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Actually, we have basically around 30 students working within with this project, and they react very well. I mean, they are very interesting on the project because even if they are young students and the first semesters, but they immediately understand which is the impact of this project within the city and within this metropolitan area. So with not just Ciudad Juárez, but also with the relation with El Paso. So they reacted very well, and in particular, they are interested in the topic to study the properties and the qualities of materials, and even more studying about plants. This, as I told you, is just one grains of sand, no? But we can make a lot of more activities, other activities within El Punto. And speaking on long term, I imagine that we can, with the students, work during the definition of spaces, activities, and so on before the construction, but also during the construction, and even more after the construction, because El Punto will be an alive organism. Huh? So it will be alive for a lot of years. And this topic of work with the community, involving with the community, within these activities, I'm sure that the students should have to participate within these activities, and it will bring benefits for the students, for the community.
Thanks, Emanuele. So I think this might be a question for Cecilia, but anyone feel free to answer. I just think Cecilia is the most savvy for this one, and they're saying for El Punto has both world-class architects, world-class professors, and also community members working on the project. So what is the collaborative philosophy of El Punto? How is El Punto able to connect all these different actors within the ecosystem and bring them together for one single goal?
I think the most important thing to recognize is that the El Punto will house world-class children that are already, after 10 years of being in a music program, some of them have achieved world-class recognition. And so I think even though we have not created the physical building, El Punto already has a meaning for everybody, that we're putting together an ecosystem, a world-class ecosystem. And it's composed of people in the community that are world-class with the outside world that has been very kind to come and look at our community as a challenge. And we're trying also, as a community, trying to show the rest of the world that yes, we have great challenges, but with opportunities, we can turn the community into a world-class community. We see it in the industry. Ciudad Juárez has a world-class industry, but nobody knows it. It gets clouded by the fact that we have narcos dealing here, we have violence, and we have all the challenges that make news. But what El Punto will do is be the point where an ecosystem can be structured so that we can share these ideas, because we're not the only community that is going through these problems. We look in the United States, we look all over the world, and we're addressing some of the problems that other communities can use our experience and model it. I don't know if I answered the questions, but
I think you did, Cecilia. Thanks so much. And one question for Brandon Clifford. It's a fun one. So you're seeing dance in construction and performance in building. What unexpected experiences have you seen resulting from this perspective?
The unexpected result. I mean, for us, we became really entranced with this idea of convincing a construction company that we should separate this boundary that exists between construction and occupation. That there, obviously there are some safety protocols, but something to do with just moving these massive elements. I mean, they have so much inertia that you really cannot just pick them and place them. So many of the conversations that surround construction deal with timeline, budget, efficiency, and it's really kind of like siloed into this category of like faster, cheaper. But if you start to think about bringing the humanities into this and building community in the way that, think of an Amish barn raising, where it is an architecture, it is a structure, a space that you're building, but the act of construction is actually the act of bringing a community together. And I think we, in our contemporary minds, we've lost sight of that. So we've been operating in that strange territory, which is oftentimes uncomfortable, and the unexpected results have to do with just totally undoing certain ideas that we have. So one of the issues we have with concrete is that it really only lasts 100 years, reinforced concrete. And after that, it gets landfilled. So if we can start to think through ways that things can easily be assembled, that means they can also be easily disassembled. And we can think about things that last much longer, or think about the afterlife, as well as the way that materials are sourced, transported, and assembled.
And Andres, quick time check for you. We're at 7:20 and we want to do a closing presentation also. So maybe if you want to do one more.
I'll do one last question, and it's just, I think it's for Sandro, which is when does this project start construction, or when does the project start itself?
Well, that's a big question, and of course, what we're doing at this moment is, after, as I told you, it's recent that we finally got legally the land. We're now trying to establish in which program we will start and how to enter this. And this is, we need to start doing the project really, because everything that you've seen until now, it's just a conceptual idea, no? We will start working now with Herzog de Mouron to look at what is a program that will start that can have an immediate impact, so that at the same time that we develop the whole project, but we have an immediate program, because that's how it was born. That's as I was telling this, through these phases. So I cannot tell you exactly dates, but I can tell you very soon we'll start working for an immediate appropriation of the land itself, in which society can now start visiting. And this will be done from very simple steps, from permaculture projects and landscape. But physically, we need to start working on the building itself. It's not easy just to start, because it's so ambitious as a project. It's ambitious in terms of, we want to do a research on the materials, and the materials itself have to be something that then can be produced in Juárez, not only for this project, but for other projects. So we don't want to lose the soul of the project just by starting working. We'll do everything in due time. There is, as you can see, a big team working on this project. And so I will not tell you an exact date, but I will tell you that we will very soon start seeing changes in this public space.
And I guess that, in a sense, as you've said, the project has already started. So we're seeing the Music Academy already having some interesting results, and all of the social programs starting around El Punto, around the idea of El Punto before construction has started. So I think that's very valuable as well. So I think we're gonna go into Diego's final presentation.
Thank you, Andres. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Tecnológico de Monterrey is proud of this alliance with El Punto. Thank you for your welcoming on board, Cecilia Levine. We are thrilled because, just like you, our institution is committed to the idea of transforming the lives of thousands of people who have been and continue to be agents of change in their organizations and communities. We want to join forces to fight extreme poverty so that everyone, everywhere, can lead a life of dignity and opportunity. At Tecnológico de Monterrey, we are proud of our history, yet humble enough to know that it is necessary to keep on learning, innovating, and venturing in order to continue serving 21st century society, building on our own roots and values, and adapting ourselves to the world to make it better and more humane. We are still not satisfied with the world we live in and are aware of our great potential to change it. It is our objective to stay on the path traced by our founders, to educate leaders capable of facing lifelong challenges successfully with values that generate positive impacts that spread to the rest of the community. Our 2030 strategic plan presents a new stage in the transformation of Tecnológico de Monterrey, drawing from the essence of the institution and its past achievements to focus on a more humane and innovative future, centered on the well-being of our community. We have developed a new educational model focusing on the development of competencies and challenge-based learning, the Tech 21 educational model, one of the most significant transformations in our history. At Tecnológico de Monterrey, we believe that education improves people's lives. This conviction has persisted and makes us more committed than ever to this purpose. Today, we fulfill this desire by educating people to free their potential in order to transform themselves in the service of others. People who are humble and courageous, people who question paradigms, have the ambition to improve, embrace a state-of-the-art technological knowledge, but maintain an ethical and humanistic profile. People who reflect and challenge themselves to act and who are more concerned with being than having. We believe everyone educated in our institution can and should have the ability and the will to transform the organizations they participate in, their environment, and the communities where they live. How will we have a world with less inequality and more economic and social opportunities? Current challenges compel us to promote the use of technological and social innovations oriented towards the generation of welfare, justice, and inclusion. It is far easier to imagine and talk through grand ideas that change the world than it is to actually get out there and do it. El Punto is a very real need that Tech 21 can offer very practical solutions to. Traditionally, most attempts at improving things are rolled out in a top-down fashion. What makes El Punto highlight is that it begins on the ground and it proves so effective that its influence can spread out around the world from there. While leadership at the top is critical in addressing some of the bigger challenges facing us on the planet, it would count for little were it not connected to the work of millions of unsung heroes like Cecilia Levine and those involved in El Punto, who fight each and every day for justice and a better life for everyone. We all have a contribution to make, and history shows us that if we do, even the greatest of problems can be overcome. Social entrepreneurship, seen as one of the most promising ways to create change, is often viewed by outsiders as an effortless and almost romantic pursuit, yet in reality, it is far from it. Social entrepreneurs and social innovators around the world often have to make considerable sacrifices, sacrifices that often test their passion and commitment to the limit. On their journey, many social innovators like Cecilia Levine have had plenty of opportunities to give up, but they didn't. They also hit many dead ends, but found many ways around them. It is this tenacity which perhaps more than anything separates them from everyone else. Tecnológico de Monterrey needs strategic partners that show this tenacity in order to make the world a better place. El Punto shines a light on some of the people creating the kind of change we all want to see in Juárez, Mexico, and the rest of the world. For those seeking inspiration and believe that change is possible, or those building their own social change projects to tackle all manner of problems, this is a project that will inspire your trust and faith in the possible. Regarding faith, every one of us has a soul that longs to connect with its creator and to contribute to a better world. El Punto stands as a testament to these purposes, offering a quiet and safe space to go inward and revitalize your sense of purpose in the world. Here, you can lay down your burdens, contemplate your dreams, and tend to your spirit. Whatever your faith background or system of belief, you are welcome to use this space for personal prayer, reflection, and meditation. Tecnológico de Monterrey is proud of integrating part of its Tech 21 educational model into this citizen lab, where students are challenged to offer real solutions to homeless migrants and the beautiful people of Juárez. Since day one, we fell in love with the idea that follows the tradition of the medieval builders' lodges. We are positive that our academic participation will play a crucial role in the construction of the complex. From the School of Humanities, Social Sciences, and Architecture, we are eager to implement training units such as transformation of contemporary Mexico, entrepreneurship and technology for the transformation of Mexico, technological tools for the social sciences, photographic techniques and discourses, human factors, research methodologies, formal representation of space, and cultural imaginaries of Mexico, among many others. Students and those who remain open will increasingly realize that they need to become ever more skilled change makers, both to succeed in society and to live the deep satisfaction of contributing importantly to the good of all. While some years ago we embraced the concept social entrepreneurship, we are currently drawn more towards the term social innovation, since it doesn't imply the application of business skills or practices to the initiative. El Punto has become a strategic partner that believes in our vision, which proposes leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship for human flourishing. The new environment requires leaders who dare to take risks and are capable of utilizing resources to make their vision a reality. What is needed is ethical and conscious leadership that considers social impact and can inspire people to pursue a common vision that helps them find a transcendental purpose for their life. We promote leadership that puts itself at the service of others, with empathetic leaders capable of making their organization successful. In a world in which knowledge is created in an exponential way, it will be necessary to have the capacity to generate knowledge and implement it, to find practical solutions that improve the quality of life of people and the planet. These solutions will require creative individuals capable of understanding a complex reality, of reinventing themselves and their surroundings. Human beings have a great capacity to develop and grow. We need to create tools that can bring about the desired development of each person in every dimension of their life. The conscious development of people seeking their physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and fulfillment for a positive impact on their environment and society. To fulfill our vision, we must be unique and have long-term sustainable characteristics. We need to continue to build on what we already are in order to create what we want to become. To obtain this, we have determined 4 key differentiators on which to focus our efforts as an institution. Thus, we will channel all of our energy towards projects such as El Punto that will bring us together to consolidating these features of organization. Maybe this is the time to talk about the moment we are in the world right now, because this workshop is not just about the City Lab in Juárez, but a demonstration of the world we want to see. While many individuals who pull strings peddle despair, division, we offer some hope and unity. While those individuals demonize the other, we enlarge the concept of neighbor and neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Diego. So with this, I think we can conclude Communities Without Boundaries. Thank you everyone for joining us late in the summit. It was a great event for us, and we hope you had a nice time.
Thank you, Andres.
Thank you to our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you all the speakers. Thank you, Andres, for all the work and good job. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Cecilia, Sandro.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Emanuele, Diego, Mauricio, I think he left.
Thank you, Maggie, Andrés.
Saludos, Pablo, Diego.
Sí, gracias a todos.
Hasta luego. Gracias.
Gracias.
Saludos a todos. Gracias. Thank you very much.
Mark, saludos.
Un cordial saludo. Gracias. Thanks, everyone.
Quisiera que pudieran imaginar por
Oh my gosh, so much information.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm so glad. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Wow, we're so busy. So much information. That was awesome, though. Here, let me stop the recording.
And the live stream.
Stop the